All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm back in action with another movie review. Once again, we are looking at the short movies made by Phoenix Comicon. This year was a pretty good year for movies. They did a really good job of selecting really good movies that, for the film festival circuit that director and director wannabes are looking to promote their stuff. This particular batch is from the Horror Block 1. So like I said before, if you or anyone you know had made a movie here are their reviews that they put out. Alright, first up, Case 1428. This one started off pretty good. One of the questions that I had, of course, is why are they having the interrogation in this one? Basically, it's about a girl who gets caught by the police and brought into like this warehouse-looking place to be interrogated. She can't sleep, and yes, this is a nod to another movie, a film franchise from the 80s. This is a fan-made based movie like that. It all comes together in the end, and did a very good job of creating the usual stuff. That said, it kind of fell apart. It was a good movie when you didn't know what it was about. Then when you knew what it was about, you actually groaned instead of inspired. I have to admit. Case 1428, good acting, good directing, interesting kind of twist they had in there. In the end, though, it just doesn't hit you the way you want it to be hit. Good effort, though. I'm gonna say that for sure. Good effort. All right, next up, Deep Sleep. We are traveling around with James a lot, who basically is having nightmares about his death. He sees himself drowning a lot. I think he also is getting shot. He goes to see a psychiatrist about it, and she recommends some form of therapy, sleep therapy, to help him get over his problems. All is well as good. Not much horror, a little bit of paranoia here, which is fine. And when it comes down to it, at the end, they try to justify everything with a small monologue on who was behind it all type of thing. And in the end, you're wondering to yourself, what was that? What did you say? Couldn't quite make it out. And you're like, okay, so that's what this was? And it just didn't connect. You weren't sure what the heck you just saw with Deep Sleep. I am sorry. I got the idea of the whole conspiracy and everything, but it just didn't connect like you wanted it to, like it could have. Next one's going to be really brief. It's basically Mean Something by Delicate M. This was not a movie. This was a music video. And it took me a while to get over that fact. You got all these guys, he's singing, he's doing all these mental powers. Don't really think it fits in this one, though. We're here to review movies, not movie videos. So, Delica, I'm going to say you did a good job. It was an interesting premise and everything. You're just in the wrong place, that's all. Alright, next up, Curse of La Muerte. Now, this one was surprising me. Every short I've seen, I always felt 10 minutes was the max. This one was 30 minutes long. That's probably why they have so few movies in here for these 90 minutes. It's because this one was in there. This one was about it's hard to tell because first off you got the boss who you follow along, and you've got the hitman who he kills after doing a job for him. So now this hitman has done a dozen jobs for him, but after this specific job, this one's too hot. So you got to cover all your bases. So you're going to kill this one hitman, but you're not going to kill the other hitman. Well, they probably didn't know, but that's okay. What was funny about Curse of La Muerte is that everyone really strove for the one theme: horror, suspense, a little bit of gore maybe. But this one really took a chance. It put in comedy. I was watching this one and watching this setup thinking, okay, we're getting ready here and everything's getting kind of scary. You have the setup about the guy who's going to come back to life to get revenge. And then all of a sudden, you've got this goofy political ad saying that, vote for me for some office. I forget which one. And all of a sudden, you're looking at this saying, what happened? It's like, what happened to the horror? And you realize this is going to be horror comedy. Not easy to pull off. You know? Now, did the horror come back? Yes, it did. As a matter of fact, there's one part in this movie where I really jumped, where all of a sudden, you're watching, all of a sudden, boom, you get a bang, and you jump a little bit. There's also some gore. But there's a lot of humor in it too. You just got to sit back and enjoy this movie for what it was. It's a good old-fashioned 80s style action flick with all the stuff from the 80s you would expect. The boss who has trouble dying, the guy who doesn't die, and just a lot of humor and a lot of action and a lot of horror. Taking that into consideration, you have to remember it's very difficult to blend those three things and have them work. You have your revenge flick, your horror flick, your comedy. But in Curse of La Muerte, it worked. It really came together into its own because it wasn't, nothing intruded on the other. Okay, from what I understand, Curse of La Muerte was a really difficult movie to make. A lot of problems with production and everything. It came out okay. It really came out okay. All right, next up, Children of Dust. This is one of those movies where you kind of follow it, but it just doesn't get you. It's all there. Everything is there, but it just doesn't connect properly. Like there's no oomph to it. It's like a painting on a wall. It's there, but there's no passion behind it. That's not really being very fair to the makers of Children of Dust. You can tell they really put their hearts into this, but the movie itself doesn't have the heart, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It doesn't. You know what it is? It doesn't have the it factor that it could have had, that it should have had. I mean, we're basically following Vincent, who has a very religious mother, and he goes out one night and meets up with Christine, who basically gives him the night of his life, and then the horror starts. But it's not as scary as you would want it to be. The horror is missing. They're doing the horrific things, nothing we haven't seen before, and yet it's lacking for some reason. I can't understand it. It's very hard for me to explain. I felt that there was just something lacking. Everything was there. It was eye candy for sure. You had this one image that I loved the most was the one where there's this big fire, okay? And the women who set the fire stand on top of it. And it's beautiful imagery, okay? It really does work. But it just doesn't work enough. Children of Dust was good, but it fell short of great. And I had to give it an okay, And I feel bad because you could tell there was some effort put into this, but the story just lacked something. It lacked the it factor. There was, good flow, no twist though. Pretty straightforward what was happening, and you just couldn't get it. And unfortunately, let's face it, if we ever really knew what that it was, there would never be a bad movie because everyone would be talking about it and how they put it in there. And unfortunately for Children of Dust, it was what was missing ultimately. It had all the elements, good camera shots, good camera angles, good story, but it just didn't have it. So, sorry about that, guys. All right, well, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you at the theaters.